Eine neue Folge von Innovation Pulse. Heute wieder mit einem Gast, einem internationalen Gast, deswegen wechseln wir gleich ins Englische. Es geht um Space, New Space, wie man sagt. Also Unternehmen, die den Zugriff zum Weltall deutlich günstiger und klüger machen, also neuartig daran gehen, ein Startup. Warum brauchen wir eigentlich Space? Wir bekommen dort eine Menge sehr wertvoller Daten über unsere Erde. Das heißt, auf der einen Seite Wetterdaten. Wir haben natürlich das Global Positioning System, also nur die Satelliten erlauben uns zu wissen, wo genau wir uns an der Stelle gerade befinden. Ganz wichtig für Navigation, aber auch natürlich visuelle Themen. Wir können mittlerweile aus dem Weltall hochauflösende Fotos generieren und dann zum Beispiel Probleme in Wäldern, Traffic, Städten und so weiter sehen. Auch Wetter, sowohl auf der Erde als auch im Weltall selber, sind sehr wichtige Daten. Also, wir brauchen die Daten aus dem Weltall, um hier auf der Erde besser zu leben. Die Herausforderung, wie immer, USA und China laufen voran, sind dort ganz klar führend. Sie haben mehr Technologie und deswegen ist es einfach, glaube ich, wichtig, dass wir eine unabhängige Infrastruktur, eine europäische Infrastruktur im Weltall aufbauen. Und genau das macht Endurosat. Aktuell nutzt das Unternehmen noch viel amerikanische Raketen, meistens von SpaceX, aber mit ESA Aerospace und anderen europäischen Playern bestehen bereits Kooperationen und wir hoffen dann bald wirklich ein 100% europäisches System aufzubauen, wo dann die Infrastruktur die ganzen wichtigen Daten weltweit liefert aus europäischer Hand. Also für mich ein sehr spannendes, ein sehr wichtiges Thema und jetzt würde ich sagen, geht's auf in den Talk mit Raycho. Hi Raycho, great to have you again on Innovation Pulse.
Thank you for hosting me, Frank.
So, we already had a discussion here in that show about the beginning and the starts about Endurosat. And today we want to discuss about where are you going, how do you grow, how it is to build a scale up in Europe and all these challenges and also these big opportunities. So, over to you. Where are you standing? What are your challenges? What's on your mind?
Well, physically, I'm standing in our new office. We just opened this office a year and a half ago. It's a 4,000 square meter space center. It's a big way off from the small attic apartment of 25 square meters where we started everything almost 8 years ago. Today, the company is vastly different. We are running operations globally. We have more than 150 engineers, scientists, and technologists, and we're really exceptionally proud to have such a huge R&D team. And our vision hasn't changed. The dream of the company has always been to make space more accessible, to democratize access to space data. We truly believe that if more organizations around the planet have access to meaningful intelligence out of sensors in Earth orbit, then those businesses could vastly have improvement in their own activities on the ground. And I think if we can make the heavy lifting part, which is building the satellites and the sensors and providing the raw data to the ground, it could be deeply meaningful for a lot of organizations around the planet. And on top of that, if we can make it almost in a commoditized way where space access is already a simplified, non-intimidating operation, I think many new innovators would be enchanted to join the last frontier and to innovate, and this would be beneficial for all of us on the planet.
It's always a pleasure to visit you in Sofia and the space center that you created, and you started from very small, and now you have a big building with your own R&D center and everything. It's quite impressive, but you also had some challenges at growing the company. I believe what's very close to our both hearts is Europe. So we want to build independent, great companies out of Europe. You want to make sure that also in new space we have leading European companies. But let's talk about also here quite frankly about the challenges. So when you look at the US players, they have better access to capital, I believe. So what's your view as one of the very successful founders in Europe who's built a very big company, most out of cash flow. Of course, there's also some investors like Freigeist, but most of the things you've built by your own. It's not like you have a lot of money and then just build something, but it's totally with you the other way around. So basically crawling, getting more customers, getting more cash flow, and then growing then just a little bit venture capital. So how do you see Europe as an entrepreneur?
Well, to be honest, I'm a huge optimist about Europe. I am a European. I truly believe that we should all dream about having these extremely successful companies in the deep tech industry that are impacting society positively. We have, of course, huge amount of challenges in Europe. I'm so grateful that you and your team were early joiners in our initiative, but you know very well that we literally had to bootstrap a space company because in our region, we're from Bulgaria. It was absolutely zero capital available to us at the early stages. If there were not a few amazing angel investors that backed us up locally, and then if it was not you guys coming to Sofia at the very early stages and believing in us, I don't think that we would have progressed. But even with the capital that we gathered and aggregated in the early ages, we literally had two choices as a company: be on the market very early on and be very competitive and offer tangible innovation. And the innovation means not to create a new technology, means to create a product that the market would like to buy, and a product which capabilities and performance are vastly superior than the traditional offerings on the same market. So for us, always the question was, either we go on the market and we become sustainable business very, very fast, or we die. So this was a big motivator, how we are hardwired today as a company, as an organization, ever since we started our journey 8 years ago. On the other side, you see on the American market, especially North American market, they understand the principle that deep tech industry should be fostered. They love competition and open market, and they invest a lot in making satellite and space companies competing with each other, trying to provide better and better services and products. In Europe, the biggest challenge for me is, with all the respect, but Europe is very administratively heavy place, and every country is still considering their regional development much more important than the common development on European level. I think we are very small as a players. Europe in general is a very small place if you think about it, although we have more than 24, 25 different cultures and entities living together, which is an amazing success story. On the other side, the heavy administration and the fact that each of our regions is still thinking locally, regionally too much, instead of thinking how can we become stronger as Europeans, is preventing big innovation. We are much more realist and not so much optimists like the Americans, which is a pity, because every time that you try to do something that profoundly could change an industry, or you are trying your best with an audacious idea, and I always tend to believe that if the idea is not audacious enough anyway, it doesn't worth it to invest time in it, then suddenly the society turns a little bit against this idea and starts to be very pessimist about the outcomes. In the region where we live, we have fantastic innovators and engineers and technologies. On the other side, we have people on the street that would always tell you in disbelief, what you guys are doing makes no sense. You're going to fail. This is too optimistic. Why don't you find a real job, something that you can objectively have as a profession? You know, all those things. I think I'm an optimist, and I think things would change in Europe. But for now, my gut feeling is that this too much regional thinking, this skepticism that we are capable of shaping our own fate through technology, through innovation, and impacting our own society. This belief that we can create something at a scale that actually makes a global compelling case. Those things are really depriving Europe from having proper innovators that remain in Europe and remain European entities. If you look at all the success stories in Europe, majority at the end of the day switch to bigger and more exciting markets like US. And there is a reason for that. As an entrepreneur, you want to create a tangible global impact. If you cannot achieve global impact in your region, what do? You sit in your chair and you cry? No, you just go and look at the other options on the table, which are today, of course, the US and the Asian market. And what the other thing that irritates a little bit in Europe is that the constant notion that bigger programs, more challenging solutions are always given to the dinosaur organizations based only on lobbying and only on the notion, I know a guy who knows a guy, instead of having a transparent, open competition where a slightly smaller or much smaller organization can objectively win a major contract, is depriving the growth of truly meaningful companies.
I believe America is kind of the same, the US kind of the same problem, because when you look at SpaceX, how cheap they now put the load into space, and you're also utilizing SpaceX. And you look at before all the government programs on how slow and how expensive they were, and it took a really a mind shift to say, okay, we give SpaceX and other new space company the opportunity of the budget. By the way, super important, your local heroes in Bulgaria and Sofia, who did develop software companies before, earned money and then put it into Endurosat, were very, very important. So local entrepreneurs who have the first success and then investing in the next generation is quite important. And I hope that this will pick up in Europe. We just had here in Bonn, LeanIX for, as the press is telling, a $1.2 billion exit. So then capital that goes to entrepreneurs and other people, and hopefully they will reinvest. So that was also quite important for your story. Talking just 2 minutes about Europe or in general the space programs, the rockets. You utilize SpaceX, but you're also looking forward to use European companies. So how, when you look at the rocket industry, what's your current view on this industry?
I think there is a huge opportunity for creating innovations in every industry, and rocket industry is not a different part of the space sector. I'm really optimistic and hoping that we'll see a proper innovation in European rocket market. Actually, we are working closely with ESA Space, a German scale-up that is trying to redefine the status quo. And I think they're fighting again the same fight technically. They're trying to compete on European level, but Europe does not give a chance to those companies to grow, and does not have the patience for them to get the time, to get the resource, to try it out. And even if you lose, at the end of the day, you're trying to redefine an entire industry or improve significantly access to space. I think it's a worthy risk to take as a society. What happens in Europe is, imagine SpaceX, when the SpaceX it's an incredible, of course, titan of an industry already. It's an inspiration to a lot of us in the space sector from one side. From the other side, it's undoubtedly true that if there was no NASA and US government support at the early ages, if there was not these open competitions which SpaceX won fair and square to deliver payloads to the International Space Station via the Falcon 9 rockets, SpaceX would not exist today, would not have even 1/10 of the size that they have today. If there were not a community of really heavy lifters of investors that can really write off checks that are substantial enough for such company to exist, if they didn't have the patience to know, okay, you can blow up few rockets, that's fine, because at the end of the day, the rocket will become inherently much more improved system. This is the difference. In Europe, if you have a failure of launch, then probably, God forbid, this happens to some of the new players, they will get immediately labeled in the local medias, I'm pretty sure, oh, this is unacceptable, oh, these guys are really bad, oh, look where the money went. And the important part and the funny part is that none of the people commenting actually ever spend their own money on that.
Yeah.
They just are on the sidelines, but also being exceptionally aggressive to the founders that are trying to redefine the status quo, founders that are actually trying to make their lives better, and VCs and private equities or private investment groups or family offices that are trying their best to make it happen. Then you get the big backlash in Europe about, oh, I told you nothing will happen. You see the first failure. This means nothing would ever happen. And I'm optimistic this will change. But I'm not so optimistic that it will change short term within the European institutions. It's like Europeans, we are scared from open market competition. I dream about a day where we have least amount of grants available and maximum amount of open competitions, commercial competitions, where the commission or the local regions and their institutions come forward and say to all the entrepreneurs in their region, listen, guys, we all as a society have this and that challenges. whoever solves the challenge, and by the way, we don't care how you solve it, we don't care how you assemble the team, we don't care who finances you. As long as you can deliver solution to our challenge, we're going to pay for this challenge X amount of capital or a cash.
Yeah.
And this would really redefine the model of how European startups and ecosystem works. In space in Europe, if you see the today's conditions, they're fantastic founders, fantastic companies on one side. From the other side, they're so amazing amount of companies in Europe today that only exist because someone is constantly giving them grants and they never produce anything that is remotely sensible for the global market. And I think these companies are depriving the chance of smaller entities to enter the game and on a fair and square basis win if there was an open competition ever. So this is the line of thought that I have. I'm a libertarian in my view. I love to compete. My logic is, well, if we as a company cannot offer a competitive solution, or if we fail more times than what we are successful in, we just die as a business, and that's fine because someone else would come competing with us, and at the end of the day, the society wins majorly because you have someone providing incredible innovation. And this is what I wish to see in Europe. I'm optimistic it will happen, not so much optimistic that it will happen short term.
So we are looking forward to launch one of our first satellites with ESA Aerospace. So the complete European ecosystem, that will be great. So we are still looking forward to that day. But coming back to Endurosat, because you survived and today you thrive, you really are growing, winning big customers. It's a little bit like Mate did with Rimac. So he sold components to the big OEMs, so he could survive. You did kind of the same, so you developed your own electronics and other parts, and you sold. But now you survive and you thrive. You have a bigger vision, and it's coming a reality very soon. So I believe it's a very magic point in the history of Endurosat. So where are you? What are your big next steps?
Well, I believe we are in the early stages of a proper scaling up phase. I think it will be a lot of incredible challenges in front of us because of the size that we are currently with more than 150 people, and having to double or triple the size of the team every year already constitutes enormous amount of challenge. From one side, from the other side, our vision has always been, again, to make space more accessible and to democratize access to space data, because we believe information from space could be deeply impactful businesses on the ground. And if we can do this infrastructure building exercise ourselves, it could be potentially impactful for many, many interesting solutions on planet Earth. We are working lately on something very concretely that a few other companies are working indeed as well. It's called constellation as a service. Basically, an idea: can we deliver to orbit fleets of sensors based on multiple satellites that provide vital data at a fraction of the current industry cost? One of our biggest fights, and which we're really proud that we achieved already, is that we could offer fixed price cost to get your sensors to orbit and deliver data, taking into account all the risks of the supply chain, building the satellite, integrating the sensor, flying it to orbit, ensuring it, of course, nominal operations for almost 5 years. And all of this we offer as a fixed price cost to the customers. Our main customers today are space companies. If you look at the space sector today, you have the hardware builders, the infrastructure builders. Those are the rocket companies, the satellite industry players like us. But predominantly, 70+%, I think, if I'm not confusing the numbers, are companies who are driven by data. So when you think about space company, think about satellite data providers, meaning companies who are obtaining valuable data in orbit and providing it as a service to industries on the ground. So we figured out, well, if we can at least help those 70% of the market type of customers access orbit for the first time at a fixed price cost. Why? Because so far space is very complicated, it's very risky business still. And this implies that you cannot have easy control over the cost of your entire missions and operations. And therefore, the companies who are providing the solutions, the space as a service solution, constellation as a service solution, always tell you one number, that it will cost you, for example, X to fly 10 cameras to orbit, but then this cost balloons really rapidly over the entire execution of the program. And we wanted to change that, because if we can offer fixed price cost, and on top of that, we can lower the overall operations of a satellite operator orders magnitude, and we take all the risk as a satellite operator and manufacturer, so that the data company can focus on what really matters to them, which is the data, extracting intelligence and information out of this data to impact someone's life positively. This changes the whole industry. So our notion is not, we're not delusional about the market. We don't imagine Endurosat would own X% of the global market or something like that. Totally the opposite. We would like to explore a different model of enabling multiple different sensors to get to orbit as fast as possible and reliably as possible, deliver maximum amount of raw data to the ground to multiple different data companies, and hopefully making this at a very low fixed price cost. I think this by itself objectively would change forever the easiness of access to orbit. It will position Endurosat to become one of those valuable, I believe, contributors as an infrastructure builders in orbit, and it will empower tremendously insane amount of new innovators, because I can only speculate how much innovation with the current development of AI and machine learning can a smart, small team on the ground do if you have the proper data and a proper understanding of AI and machine learning. So this is what we are working on right now. We are in the final stages of preparing our first more major, let's say, program constellation of the service, basically deploying an entire fleet of cameras and sensors to observe European continent first, and later on provide the same service for other continents and countries. And things will become increasingly interesting, increasingly more dynamic, and increasingly more challenging, I believe.
So as everybody who's watching this as a video can see, I have way more gray hair than you. So I'm longer in the industry. And that's exactly what I saw with networks. I mean, today it sounds ridiculous, but basically there were big projects in installing local area networks, and you didn't know how much it would cost to install them. And there was no easy access to compute. And today, of course, everybody can just go into the cloud, which is AWS or Azure or other services, and you just can instantly, with your credit card swiping through, get the access. And it's basically where I see the space industry today. So if I want to get data out of space, it's a huge, complicated project with the amount X that you just mentioned. It can become a very big X. Nobody knows. Also, the timelines are ridiculously long. It's a very closed shop, like building a local area computer network has been. And what you are enabling is an open network where you basically can have immediately access as a fixed price, and that will unleash the market, because there are so many great use cases for space data, but today it's basically inaccessible. It's only accessible for people who have the team, the budget, the time, like it has been the case for compute power. And today, like every student has access even to quantum computing via the cloud, and that will happen in space. And the interesting part is that you have not only developed the IP on the hardware side, but also on the software side, where you can do over-the-air updates of the satellites, use FPGAs in space, and all these things. And I believe, this will unleash complete new industry possibilities.
No, absolutely, and that's the vision, and that's the hope. Actually, we imagine a near future where you can have products like Apple Maps or Google Maps on steroids. Imagine you open this map and you have on the same aggregated medium very high and precise meteorologic data mixed with the per minute metadata of what's happening in front of your eyes on the street where your kids live. You can monitor live carbon emissions. You can monitor live the logistics of your business. You can really have a absolutely different digitalized look of your own entire life as an entrepreneur, as a company, or as an organization, NGO, or university.
Also,
and
connectivity.
This can only be possible if we have more innovations at the final frontier. And we are thinking about it in a simplistic way. can we accelerate, can we simplify the way that you put these sensors to orbit that could enable this future? Imagine the autonomous driving vehicles, imagine the autonomous flying vehicles, imagine the constant need for us to monitor more and more precisely the entire planet so that we can actually enforce change. Because when you make the change objectively visible, you make it inherently challenging for those who want to disrespect the science data and want to disrespect the objective realism of what's happening to actually have any power in the argument. And I think if we can play a small role in that, our wasted sacrifice of most precious thing that we have is our time, and we sacrifice a lot of our time and efforts in this initiative. It would have been worth it if we see this future happening. And we are working every day, step by step. I don't believe in overhyping business ideas. To be honest, you know me very well. I really rarely even appear in social medias. I believe that the results that we achieve together should constitute our capacity to change our own environment and should be a statement of what we think and who we are. The results of our work, not the words themselves. So I hope every year by year we can objectively get to a higher and higher degree of impact, tangibly demonstrating how the infrastructure in space that we are trying and dreaming to build objectively impacts businesses and lives on planet Earth. And I think this is really incredible. Right now, we are dreaming for the first time for building an incredible infrastructure for the entire Balkans. Balkans, just to give you the concept, we have an incredible treasure trove of smart people, engineers, technologists, and then we have a very insignificant new space industries and environment. And imagine a near future where just 8 years ago, this would be inconceivable that we are planning to potentially put in orbit a system that could give you every few minutes refreshing rate time, information about every road, every tree, every water repository or a river, about what's happening in your region. It could be evidently accessible to the entire population of the Balkans. If we are successful with this program, and if these programs, of course, happens as planned, this will be a paradigm change. And this is just one example of how an infrastructure could save human lives, help us understand better our environment, help us disseminate objective science data and messages instead of the polluted social media with all sorts of banana crazy people disbelieving in science in 21st century while using smartphones and airplanes, thinking that the world is flat and God forbid other stupidities. So this is what we would like to do as an impact and as a business.
And also, if you are a young engineer looking to really build on something outstanding and join a team that's really doing R&D at the cutting edge. Also, Endurosat.com, there are open positions. I visit the team and it's really a magic energy and one of the most exciting technology teams in Europe. And yeah, it's really it's a very intensive. It's a great place and a space center, how you call it. So it's really cool. So the closing words are for you. So what do you want to give to the audience?
I'm just giving. I just really am optimist about Europe, about innovators in Europe. I hope that if there is someone that is listening and really is still considering that he or she has the capacity to change the world for good, you should try. You should never be deprived from the right to try your best to change your environment. You should never be ashamed if on the way of trying you're failing. Failing is absolutely inevitable part of the process. I'm more convinced with every year that we build our own business that it's not the smartest person that survives this game. It's not the most financed team, by the way, never was and never will be. It is the most resilient one. Endurosat comes from endurance, and it was just a gut feeling at the time that we started. But now I understand that we carry the name with the dignity because we had to endure so much challenges, and I'm sure that everyone that has ever try to build something sensibly at scale would realize very quickly that the endurance, the stamina to continue when you have a shit moments, the stamina when you have the darkest of days, when everyone is telling you this is not going to happen, it's too optimistic, or for whichever reason you're going to fail, you just keep going. Like, keep going, be very bullish about your ideas, and make sure that you always have to be surrounded by people who have the same passion, or at least the same respect to your idea, so that the idea can endure long enough. At certain point, the endurance makes the enormous difference within every industry. I've seen an incredible companies financed with the greatest of VCs, with hundreds of millions of euro in our sector, with the incredibly respectable founders, with incredible ecosystem of already established players, with the incredible ecosystem of universities giving you the best graduates, failing. And I've seen people starting without almost any hope of success, creating paradigm shifts and proving that that the final frontier should be accessible to many others. So just follow your gut and make sure that you are exceptionally persistent, because the only thing that makes the difference is how far are you willing to go for how long of a time to get to the success that you wish for.
But you also have to be ready to eat glass, as Elon told you, if you wanna really make it successful. And I can tell you, Raycho and his team has eaten a lot of glass over the years, and also great people like Victor from your team. It's just a very beautiful mind. Have the right people beside you building, believing in that vision. And that's what you brought you here. Now you are at an inflection point, I believe. This will become a data company. Very, very interesting. So we'll give you an update in the next, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. And then hopefully you can all swipe your credit card and access the data in space. So far, thanks a lot, Raycho, for finding again the time to join us here in Innovation Pulse, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Frank, and it was really a pleasure as always to talk to you guys. And if nothing else, there will be 2 choices. We can do the 3rd podcast where we failed tremendously doing stuff, and there will be a lot of things that I can share what you shouldn't do. Or hopefully in the next 2 years we can brag about yet another step in the right direction. So thanks to you, to your listeners, to your viewers, and really excited for the prospects of a much brighter European future.